Have you ever wondered what really happens after your last breath? The moment your body shuts down and life as you know it slips away, is it the end, or is it just the beginning? What if I told you that everything you've been taught about death, about what it means and where it leads, has only scratched the surface? For centuries, this question has fascinated, terrified, and inspired humanity. Ancient cultures, modern science, and countless personal experiences all point to one truth. Death isn't an end, it's a transformation. And when you understand this, it changes not only how you see death, but how you live your life. Let's begin with a question most people don't dare to ask. What if death isn't something to fear? What if it's not the dark, empty void you've imagined? Instead, imagine it as a doorway, one that opens into a new realm of existence, one shaped by everything you've thought, felt, and done in this life. This isn't just an abstract idea. Ancient wisdom and modern discoveries are uncovering pieces of a puzzle that's been hidden in plain sight, and the truth they reveal could shatter everything you thought you knew. Consider the ancient Egyptians. For them, death wasn't the end of the road. It was a journey, a passage through the duat, the mysterious underworld. They believed that your soul would face a series of challenges, tests of purity and truth, before reaching the afterlife. They even mapped out this journey in the Egyptian Book of the Dead, a guide filled with rituals, chants, and wisdom meant to help the soul navigate the unknown. To them, death was as much a part of life as birth, and they spent their entire lives preparing for it. But the Egyptians weren't the only ones. In the East, the Tibetan Book of the Dead offers another roadmap, describing the bardos, or transitional states that the soul experiences after death. These bardos are like mirrors, reflecting the true nature of your consciousness. Some souls find peace and liberation, while others, overwhelmed by fear or attachment, become trapped in cycles of rebirth. The Tibetans believe that what happens in these states depends not on external forces, but on the mind itself, on how you've lived and what you've cultivated within. These ancient texts might sound like myths or metaphors, but here's where things get interesting. Modern science is starting to catch up with what these traditions have been teaching for thousands of years. Take near-death experiences, for example. Across the world, people who've been declared clinically dead, no heartbeat, no brain activity, have returned with astonishing stories. They describe floating above their bodies, seeing a tunnel of light, reuniting with loved ones, or feeling a profound sense of peace and unconditional love. What's even more remarkable is the consistency of these experiences, regardless of culture, religion, or upbringing. Science, of course, tries to explain these phenomena. Some researchers suggest it's the brain's final burst of activity, releasing a flood of chemicals as it shuts down. Others argue that it's simply hallucination. But what about the cases that defy explanation? The people who accurately describe events or conversations that happened while they were clinically dead. The accounts of blind individuals seeing for the first time during their near-death experience. These stories challenge the idea that consciousness is just a product of the brain. Instead, they suggest that consciousness might continue beyond the physical body. This brings us to one of the most profound questions humanity has ever faced. What is consciousness? Is it simply a byproduct of neurons firing in the brain, or is it something more? A fundamental aspect of reality itself? Some physicists believe that consciousness could be woven into the very fabric of the universe, existing independently of the body. Quantum physics, with its mind-bending concepts of entanglement and non-locality, hints at a reality where everything is connected, where time and space are illusions, and where consciousness might transcend the physical world. But let's step back for a moment and look at death from another angle. Have you ever noticed how life itself mirrors the process of dying? Every day we experience little deaths and rebirths. When we let go of a dream, when a chapter of our lives ends, or when we face profound change, these transitions can feel terrifying, like pieces of us are being stripped away, but each time we emerge stronger, wiser, more aligned with our true selves. In this way, death isn't just something that happens at the end of life. It's a process we experience over and over again, a reminder that endings are always beginnings in disguise. The Tibetan teachings reflect this beautifully. They describe life as a series of bardos, transitional states where the soul has the opportunity to awaken. These bardos aren't just after death, they're happening all the time. The bardo of dreaming, for example, is the state between waking and sleeping. The bardo of life is the state we're in right now, where we can consciously shape our thoughts, actions, and beliefs. And the bardo of dying, it's said to be a reflection of how we've lived. If we've cultivated fear, attachment, or ignorance, those will follow us. But if we've cultivated mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, they become the keys that unlock liberation. Think about that for a moment. What if the way you live your life now is preparing you for what comes next? What if every thought, every choice, every intention shapes not only your present reality, but your journey beyond this life? This isn't about perfection or achieving some impossible standard of enlightenment. It's about living with awareness, with presence, with the understanding that every moment is an opportunity to grow. And here's the truth that most people don't realize. Death isn't something to be feared. Fear comes from the unknown, from the stories we've been told about punishment, judgment, and loss. But when you peel back those layers, what you find is that death is a natural part of existence. It's not the opposite of life. It's a continuation, a transformation, like water turning into steam. The essence remains, only the form changes. What's even more profound is that death isn't something you have to wait for to understand. The same truths that reveal themselves in death are available to you right now. When you meditate, when you let go of attachments, when you embrace the present moment, you're practicing for the ultimate transition. You're stepping into the awareness that you are not your body, your thoughts, or your fears. You are something far greater, something eternal, limitless, and free. And this is where the journey begins. So now that we've opened the doorway to understanding death, let's take a deeper dive into what truly happens when you take your final breath. Picture this. Your body grows still, your heartbeat slows, and the world around you begins to fade. But instead of darkness, you are met with something else entirely, something far more profound. Across countless cultures, spiritual teachings, and personal accounts, there's a striking similarity in the stories people tell about what happens in those moments. These experiences defy logic, yet they feel undeniably real to those who have been there. What if these accounts aren't just personal hallucinations, but glimpses into a universal truth? In many near-death experiences, people describe being enveloped in a radiant light, a light that doesn't just shine but seems to communicate. It feels alive, loving, and deeply familiar, as if it's calling them home. Some describe this light as God, others as the universe or source. What's fascinating is that the light doesn't judge them. Instead, it feels like pure acceptance, a reflection of who they truly are, beyond all the masks and stories they've worn in life. It's as if in that moment they are reminded of something they had forgotten, that they are infinite beings, made of the same essence as the light itself. But the journey doesn't stop there. Many report a panoramic life review, where every moment of their life is replayed, not as a punishment, but as an opportunity to see how their actions, words, and choices rippled out into the world. Imagine feeling, not just seeing, how your kindness lifted someone's spirit, or how a harsh word caused pain. In this review, there's no external judge. You become the one who understands the impact of your life, and through this understanding, you're offered a chance to learn, to grow, to forgive yourself. This concept isn't unique to near-death experiences. Ancient texts, like the Egyptian and Tibetan books of the dead, speak of a similar process. The Egyptians believed that after death, the heart would be weighed against the feather of Ma'at, the goddess of truth and balance. A light heart, free from the weight of guilt and deceit, would pass into the afterlife. The Tibetans describe a stage where the soul encounters archetypal deities, reflections of its own mind. If the soul recognizes these deities as aspects of itself, it moves closer to liberation, but if it succumbs to fear or clings to attachment, it may cycle back into rebirth. What's striking is how these ancient teachings align with what we're learning from modern science. In the seconds after clinical death, the brain doesn't shut down immediately. Instead, it enters a hyperactive state, where electrical activity surges, creating vivid hallucinatory-like experiences. But can this really explain the profound clarity and transformative nature of near-death experiences? Many researchers argue it doesn't. The consistency of these experiences across cultures and belief systems suggests that something far greater may be at play. Quantum physics offers a potential explanation, one that challenges everything we know about reality. According to some interpretations, consciousness might not be bound to the brain at all. Instead, it could be a fundamental property of the universe, existing independently of physical matter. This idea aligns with the concept of a holographic universe, where everything is interconnected, and what we perceive as reality is just one layer of a much larger, multi-dimensional existence. If this is true, death isn't the end of consciousness. It's simply a shift in perspective, a transition from one dimension to another. But what about the bardos, those transitional states described in Tibetan Buddhism? Imagine being in a dream-like state, where your thoughts, emotions, and fears become your reality. The Tibetans teach that in the bardo of dying, the soul is confronted with both peaceful and wrathful deities. These aren't external beings, but manifestations of the mind's deepest truths and fears. If the soul can recognize them for what they are, projections of its own consciousness, it can move toward liberation, but if it clings to fear or attachment, it becomes trapped in the cycle of samsara, the endless loop of birth, death, and rebirth. Now, here's the question that changes everything. If death is a reflection of life, what are you creating right now? Every thought you think, every belief you hold, every action you take, it all shapes your reality, both in this life and beyond. If your mind is filled with fear, resentment, or attachment, those energies don't just disappear when you die. They follow you, shaping your experience in the afterlife. But if you cultivate love, compassion, and presence, those energies become the foundation of your journey beyond this life. This understanding isn't meant to create fear. In fact, it's the opposite. It's an invitation to live more consciously, to take responsibility for the energy you carry and the choices you make. It's a reminder that you are the creator of your reality, not just in life but in death as well. And the best way to prepare for the afterlife: live fully in the present moment. When you practice mindfulness, gratitude, and surrender, you're not just enriching your life, you're preparing your soul for the ultimate transition. Think of life as a rehearsal for death. Every time you let go of a fear, every time you forgive, every time you face a challenge with courage, you're practicing for that moment when you step into the unknown. And when you embrace the unknown with an open heart, you discover something extraordinary, that the unknown isn't something to fear. It's where the magic happens. It's where transformation begins. But let's not romanticize this process. Awakening to the nature of death and life isn't always easy. It requires facing uncomfortable truths, letting go of attachments, and surrendering the illusion of control. It's a journey that asks you to be both brave and vulnerable, to confront the parts of yourself that you've avoided. But in doing so, you unlock a freedom that's beyond anything you've ever known. Imagine living without the fear of death. Imagine embracing every moment, every joy, every challenge, every loss, with the understanding that it's all part of a greater journey. Imagine seeing yourself not as a finite being, but as an eternal consciousness, connected to everything and everyone. This isn't just a dream, it's a reality that's available to you right now in this very moment. And here's the beautiful paradox: the more you embrace death, the more fully you can live. When you stop running from the inevitable, you can finally be present. You can finally appreciate the gift of life, not as something to cling to, but as something to experience fully, moment by moment. And when the time comes to take your final breath, you can do so with peace, knowing that it's not the end, but a continuation, a step into the infinite. Because death isn't a failure, it isn't a punishment, it's a homecoming. As you step deeper into this understanding, the idea of death begins to shift. It's no longer the grim ending that casts its shadow over life. Instead, it becomes a doorway, a bridge, a transition that's as natural as the changing seasons. Think about it. The leaves fall in autumn, not as an ending, but as preparation for new growth in the spring. The same applies to your life. Death is not an eraser that wipes away everything you've built. It's a transformation, a chance for your consciousness to expand into something far greater than the limited confines of the physical world. But what happens in the moments after death? Across cultures, stories and teachings point to strikingly similar phenomena. For some, the experience begins with a feeling of lightness, as if the weight of the physical body has been lifted. Many describe floating above their own bodies, watching themselves from a distance. This isn't a dream or a hallucination. It feels more real than anything they've ever experienced. Some report hearing a high-pitched hum or seeing a bright, radiant light pulling them forward. Others describe entering a tunnel, moving towards something vast and infinite. But no matter the details, one thing is consistent. They feel an overwhelming sense of peace, and knowing that they are safe, loved, and not alone. And then there's the light. This isn't just any light. It's often described as intelligent, alive, and deeply personal. It seems to hold the reflection of the soul, revealing everything with absolute clarity yet without judgment. People who've experienced this light say it feels like being bathed in unconditional love, a love so profound that it defies words. It doesn't demand explanations, it simply sees you completely and wholly, and in that seeing, it reminds you of your true nature. This is where the life review often comes in, a profound reflection on your existence. But unlike what some might imagine, this isn't about punishment or shame, it's about understanding. Imagine replaying the most pivotal moments of your life, not just from your perspective, but from the perspective of everyone you've ever interacted with. When you revisit a moment of kindness, you don't just see it. You feel the ripple of that kindness in the hearts of others. And when you revisit a moment of harm or anger, you feel the pain it caused, not as a punishment but as an opportunity to grow, to learn, to expand. This idea of a life review aligns with the concept of karma found in many spiritual traditions. Karma isn't about tallying up good and bad deeds like points in a cosmic ledger. It's about energy, how your thoughts, words, and actions create ripples that flow out into the world and ultimately back to you. It's about recognizing the interconnectedness of all things and understanding that what you give to the world, you give to yourself. But here's where things get even more fascinating. After this review, many describe encountering loved ones who have passed on. These aren't just vague, dreamlike figures. They're vivid, vibrant, and unmistakably real. People report being greeted by grandparents, siblings, friends, and even pets, all radiating health, joy, and love. For some, these reunions serve as a comforting welcome home. For others, they provide closure, answers to questions left unresolved during life. And in these moments, there's a sense that these connections, these bonds of love, transcend time and space. Yet, not everyone's experience stops here. Some describe venturing further, beyond the light, beyond the familiar, into realms that are harder to put into words. They speak of vast landscapes of indescribable beauty, shimmering colors that don't exist in the physical world, and a sense of unity with something infinite. They describe feeling more alive than ever before, as if they've returned to a state of being they had forgotten. For some, this is a place of profound peace. For others, it's a space of infinite possibility, where creation and existence blend into one. What's fascinating is how closely these descriptions align with teachings from the Tibetan Book of the Dead. In these teachings, the soul enters the Bardos, a series of transitional states that determine what comes next. In the first bardo, there's the Clearlight, a pure, radiant energy that offers the soul an opportunity for liberation. If the soul can recognize this light as its true nature, it merges with it and is freed from the cycle of rebirth. But if fear or attachment arises, the soul moves into the next bardo, where it encounters visions shaped by its own mind. These can be peaceful or wrathful, reflecting the soul's deepest truths and fears. And in the final bardo, the soul chooses its next path, influenced by its karma and intentions. This teaching isn't meant to scare or overwhelm. In fact, it's profoundly empowering. It reminds us that death is not random or chaotic. It's a reflection of the life we've lived, And while the bardos may sound mystical, their essence is something we experience every day. Every time you let go of a fear, face a challenge or embrace change, you're practicing for the ultimate transition. Every time you choose love over fear, presence over distraction, you're shaping your journey, not just in this life, but beyond it. And that's the point. The afterlife isn't just about what happens when you die. It's about how you live. It's about the energy you cultivate, the connections you make, the truths you embrace. If you live a life filled with fear, resentment, and attachment, those energies don't disappear when you take your last breath. They follow you, shaping your experience in the next realm. But if you live a life of mindfulness, gratitude, and love, those energies become your compass, guiding you toward liberation. Imagine for a moment what it would feel like to live without fear of death. To know, with absolute certainty, that death is not an ending but a transformation. To understand that you are not your body, your thoughts, or even your identity. You are something infinite, something eternal. This isn't just wishful thinking. It's a truth that's echoed in ancient wisdom, modern science, and the stories of those who've glimpsed what lies beyond. But this truth isn't something you have to wait until death to experience. It's available to you right now. Every time you meditate, every time you practice gratitude, every time you connect with the present moment, you're touching that infinite part of yourself. You're stepping into the awareness that you are so much more than what you've been taught to believe. And when the time comes to take your final breath, you won't face it with fear. You'll face it with peace, with acceptance, with the knowing that it's not the end but a beginning. You'll step into the unknown, not as a leap into darkness, but as a return to the light. Because death, my friend, is not the great unknown. It's the great homecoming. Now that we've unraveled the mysteries of what happens after your final breath, let's bring it all back to the most important question. What does this mean for your life right now? You see, the truth about death isn't just something to ponder in your final moments. It's a call to live more fully, more authentically, and more intentionally. Because when you understand that death is not an end, but a transition, it frees you from the fear that holds so many people back. It gives you permission to embrace each day as a gift, to see every moment as an opportunity to grow, to connect, and to create. Imagine waking up every morning with the awareness that this life, this experience, is part of something so much bigger. That every thought you think, every word you speak, every action you take ripples out into the infinite. You are not here by accident. You are here to learn, to expand, and to contribute your unique energy to the world. When you start to see life this way, even the mundane becomes sacred. Every breath, every interaction, every challenge takes on new meaning. And here's the paradox. The more you embrace the inevitability of death, the more alive you become. When you stop clinging to what you can't control, when you let go of the fear of losing what you love, you open yourself to a deeper, richer experience of life. You stop living on autopilot and start truly seeing, feeling, and being present. You start to appreciate the small, quiet moments, the warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of laughter, the feeling of connection with another soul. These are the moments that make life extraordinary. But let's not sugarcoat it. This journey of embracing death and living fully isn't always easy. It requires courage. It requires you to face the parts of yourself that you've avoided, to let go of the illusions that have kept you safe but small. It requires you to surrender the need for certainty and control, to step into the unknown with trust and an open heart. And it requires you to ask the hard questions. What am I holding onto that no longer serves me? What fears are keeping me from living the life I truly desire? What would I do differently if I wasn't afraid of death? These questions aren't meant to intimidate you, they're meant to awaken you. Because the answers, as uncomfortable as they may be, hold the key to your freedom. They remind you that you don't have to wait for some distant day to start living the life you were meant to live. You can start right now, in this moment, by making one small choice. Maybe it's choosing to forgive someone who hurt you. Maybe it's letting go of a limiting belief that's been holding you back. Maybe it's simply taking a deep breath and reminding yourself that you are enough, just as you are. And as you make these choices, as you align your thoughts, actions, and energy with the life you want to create, you'll start to notice something incredible. Life will begin to flow. Synchronicities will appear. Doors you never thought possible will open. It's not magic, it's alignment. When you live in harmony with the truth of who you are, the universe responds. It mirrors your energy back to you, creating a reality that reflects your highest potential. But here's the most beautiful part. This isn't just about you. As you awaken to your true nature, as you embrace life and let go of fear, you become a beacon for others. Your energy, your presence, your light, it inspires those around you to do the same. You show them, not through words, but through example, what it means to live authentically, to love deeply, and to walk through life with grace and courage. You remind them of their own infinite nature, their own capacity for transformation. Because the truth is, we're all connected. Your journey is not separate from mine or from anyone else's. We are threads in the same cosmic tapestry, each of us contributing to the beauty of the whole. And when you live with this awareness, when you see yourself not as an isolated individual, but as part of something vast and infinite, it changes everything. You realize that your choices matter, that your energy matters, that your life matters, not because of what you achieve or accumulate, but because of the love and light you bring to the world. So where does this leave you? It leaves you with a choice. You can continue living as if life is random, as if death is the end, as if you are small and separate from the universe. Or you can choose to awaken, to see death not as something to fear, but as something to understand, to embrace, to prepare for, not by obsessing over it, but by living fully in each moment. To recognize that you are not your body, your thoughts, or your fears. You are something infinite. You are consciousness itself, experiencing life through the lens of this human existence. And when the time comes to take your final breath, you won't face it with regret or resistance. You'll face it with peace, with gratitude, with the knowing that you've lived fully, loved deeply, and left a ripple of light in the world. You'll step into the unknown, not as a leap into darkness, but as a return to the light. And in that moment, you'll remember the truth that's been with you all along. Death is not the end, it's the beginning of something greater. So take this knowledge and let it transform you. Let it guide you to live with more intention, more compassion, more authenticity. Let it remind you that every moment is a gift, an opportunity to grow, to connect, to create. And above all, let it free you from the fear that has kept you small. Because you are so much more than you've been taught to believe. You are limitless. You are eternal. You are free.